The Glorious Twelfth at Jindabye by Daley. LibriVox.org by Son of the Exiles. Came a horseman to O'Brien's, and his voice was stern and high. Mick, the Orangemen are mustering by scores at Jindabye, and, unless the boys are gathered quick, 'twill be a woeful sight, for there'll be a big procession and there won't be any fight. Mick O'Brien heard the summons as he stood beside his gate. He was 6'2" in stockings, 16 stone his fighting weight. "Pat O'Connor," he said softly, "take a drink before you go, and then ride and rouse the Callaghan's. We'll all be at the show." "Saddle up," he cried to Barney, "saddle up the Black and Bay, saddle up the White and Roan as well. We'll have the devil's day. Missus, missus, tear your sheets up fast as ever tear yous can. We'll want bandages this evenin', or I'm not a Munster man." Then he called unto his stalwart sons. "Get up, cried he. "Now I wonder," said Cornelius, "what the old man's game can be." But the old man's voice in thunder rose: "Remember, boys, Athlone, and remember Boyne and Aughrim and the broken treaty stone." Then Cornelius said to Dennis, "What in thunder does he mean? We have heard of Boyne and Aughrim, we have heard of Skibbereen, and we know that dear old island of the ocean is the gem. But why should we go breaking heads because of it or them?" But their mother spake right scornfully: "And ye are sons of mine. On this day me uncle Dan O'Toole would make his blackthorn shine. He would make it shine and quiver at the mention of that river and the beating Billy gave us at the Battle of the Boyne. Och, the green flag floated bravely the black Orangemen to spite, and there hardly was a house without its broken head that night. And me brother and your father, boys, he'll tell you this is true, came home stiff with blood and glory, as good Irishmen should do. Holy Patrick, are ye traitors? Rise up quickly, Con and Din. We were only lonely women, but we had the hearts of men. In old Ireland when the 12th came round, oh, faix, 'twas our delight for to bandage up the wounded when they tottered home at night." Then they rose and put their garments on, did Con and Din and Mick, while young Patrick to the kitchen went to choose himself a stick. "Hush!" he whispered to his sister, who was weeping in the yard. "I shall have to stoush Bill Layman, but I will not stoush him hard." Now Bill Layman and fair Nan O'B were sweethearts on the sly, and they took no sort of interest in the memories of July. They were native born Australians and had vowed their hands to join, and they didn't care a hairpin for the Battle of the Boyne. Barney saddled up like lightning, saddled up the Black and Bay, saddled up the White and Roan as well, and oh, but he was gay for this old and trusty vassal of the bold O'Brien clan, as the devil holy water loves did love an Orange man. They aroused the Red McCormicks and the Firths of Dooley Buck, and the Fagans and the Hagans and the Quins of Damn the Luck. And these heroes swiftly sprang to horse without a word to say, for they knew that fun was brewing when O'Brien led the way. Mick O'Brien and Dad Hogan proudly led the cavalcade, and they looked like brigand captains riding forth upon a raid. And for joy of coming ructions like a backblocks Taillefer, big McCormick threw his stick aloft and caught it in the air. At the township's end they saw a sight right maddening to behold. All the Orangemen in trappings fine of purple and of gold. There were Lynses and Laymans there, and Nugents and McCalls, and they marched along so boldly to the tune of Derry walls. Briggs the sword and Bible carried, Briggs was always to the fore. Sobered up for the occasion, Boozer Scott the banner bore, and old Schnorenberg the Dutchman made the trumpet hoot and hum, while fat Henderson the butcher pounded wildly on the drum. Mick O'Brien at the circus gazed, and his ire commenced to rise, and the lurid light of war began to kindle in his eyes. Old Dad Hogan, leaning over, whispered hoarse behind his hand, "Be me soul now, Mick O'Brien, this is more than I can stand." But in spite of all the day might still have ended up in peace without broken heads or instruments, or work for the police, if it hadn't been for Doolan's educated cockatoo that had been for months in training for the Orangemen's Chevaux. On the roof of Doolan's pub it perched and talked in language vile, and "To hell with old King Billy" screeched in most insulting style. "Wring its blanky neck!" cried someone. "It's a Papist through and through!" And a rush was made immediately for Doolan's cockatoo. Then O'Brien to Dad Hogan said, "The time to charge has come. I'll lay out the banner bearer while you batter in the drum." And the forces of O'Brien that to fight were never slow, with a whoop, "Remember Limerick!" rushed fiercely on the foe. But the foe had seen them coming, and his horsemen sat in rank, waiting sternly to go through them with a countercharge in flank. Then the fight became Homeric, and the champions of each clan came against each other bravely, horse to horse and man to man. Bull-necked Ballantyne the blacksmith, with a visage fierce and grim, yelled around for Big McCormick. Big McCormick yelled for him. When they met, the bold McCormick, with a poltog mighty fine, made a subject for a stretcher of the valiant Ballantyne. Seeing this, then, hairy Hamilton let out a howl for blood, and he charged upon Tim Fagan, and Tim Fagan bit the mud. Better far for Tim had he been grubbing stumps in quiet way on his farm at Dead Cat Gully than in Jindabye that day. Sandy Armstrong, sorely battered, in his saddle rocked and reeled, but he whirled his stick and scattered Cock-eyed Hogan on the field. Cock-eyed Hogan was the proudest of the haughty Hogan race, and they carried him to Doolan's pub to straighten out his face. But the battle cries rose wildly, and the fight raged fierce and hot, like the fight o'er dead Patroclus o' the form of Boozer Scott. Mick O'Brien, as he said he would, had laid him out all right, but the Boozer to his banner clung and kicked with all his might. "Boys, they mustn't seize our banner, man!" the biggest layman cried, and he sprang to ground with flaming eyes, the Boozer to bestride. But the Boozer swore that both sides he would prosecute by law, for Bill Layman hauled him by the leg and Brady by the jaw. And the battle for the Boozer might have lasted through July if the boys on either side had not got synchronously dry. Big McCormick looked at Hamilton and whispered with a wink, "If you've had enough of bloodshed, Bill, we'll go and have a drink." When the fight was o'er the battlefield a man might proudly scan who was Irish, whether Papist fierce or furious Orange man, for there wasn't in the township any person to be seen who had not some little keepsake scar from Orange side or Green. In the gutter old Dad Hogan lay and feebly yelled for rum, while Fat Henderson sat weeping o'er the ruins of his drum. But O'Brien into Doolan stepped with eyes that proudly shone, and a lump upon his forehead you could hang your hat upon. Oh, the night they had at Doolan's, sure its like was never seen, for the Lionses and Laymans roared the wearin' of the green, and the Finns and Quins and Fagans sang Boyne Water without check, and they called each other brother and fell on each other's neck. Now the moral of this yarn is, if to Jindabye you go, never aggravate a Lyons, or you'll make a Quin a foe. Never strike at an O'Brien in your very angriest spasm, or a layman will reduce you to organic protoplasm. There are bonds of blood and marriage now, these ancient foes between, and the orange is inextricably mingled with the green. And that this broad kindly feeling should increase in coming time is the wish for green and orange of the writer of this rhyme. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.